Yes. No, we talk. Part of what Brian had referred to is under Marcy's law, the California Constitution requires that victims get a say. So what we did is the DA's office, when they heard that we were doing the press conference, extended the invitation for the family to come over and and hear about Marcy's Law, to hear about exactly what their feelings are. I will tell you, and I said it before, that the DA's office from 18 months ago has taken this very seriously. And I say that because there are times, whether it's high profile, low profile, that I don't get the feeling that we're being heard. I get the feeling here that we have been being heard. I get the feeling that there is genuine. I think the DA has mentioned in his remarks that there is a division in the office. I understand that. I mean, I get that, but I don't think that there should be any division when you've got a united front of this many family members. And I know somebody had asked me about one of the family members. I would just say I don't want to cast aspersions on anyone. All I will say is think about your own family. Do you think you could get almost unanimous support out of your own family and extended relatives for anything you do? So I'll leave it at that.
Marcus, has there been public attention to the story? Renewed public attention to the story thanks in part to documentaries, biography series, public support from people like Kim Kardashian, Elizabeth Dahl. How do you think this will all be impacted on that?
Well, I think interestingly, and I don't know how you measure something like this, but I have been, obviously, I was practicing when this trial took place. I remember in 1994 representing a woman in Pomona, and we used the battered woman syndrome. And she got a voluntary manslaughter, she got probation. And I remember at the time being struck by the idea, and I've confirmed it now in the transcripts of their second trial, struck by the idea that the DA's office on the second trial took the position, and it may not have been wrong at the time, that the battered woman syndrome, that something that diminishes your intent, did not apply to child abuse. And that was on the record. And that's what the judge ruled. So how do I think how has this evolved? First of all, the younger generation, I hate to say that, it makes me seem old, but there has been a movement. I think that what happened is that when the Ryan Murphy series came out, it was such a caricature of them that the pendulum swing backlash actually created a focus on it, and people then took a look. I know that I've seen some of those videos of the first trial that was televised where the DA's office was taking the position that men could not be raped, they don't have the equipment. And you've seen all kinds of arguments along those lines. That is unfathomable in today's age to people who weren't alive back then. So I think that evolution has been, frankly, seismic.
What do Eric and Lyle think about this?
Sorry, what do Lyle and Eric think about all this renewed attention on their case?
I think one of the reasons that we mentioned early on and that the family has said it, they had absolutely no hope after '05. So after 2005, they didn't believe, they thought they were going to spend the rest of their life in prison. And they had resigned themselves to it. And all of the programs, I invite anybody to take a look at what's called the Green Space program that they have. The Green Space program that they have created down there, that's based on the Norwegian model, that is something that they have done in order to reacclimate prisoners who are being released. I look at both the external programs that they've done and the introspection and work they've done on themselves. I've used the term cautiously optimistic. I mean, there is an irony that DA politics played a role in their conviction. Well, look, I've said it before, and Joan, who you saw, her birthday is November, I want to say the 26th. She turns 93. Nothing she'd like more than to have them home for Thanksgiving. That's what the question was. What do you say to the people who say they acted out of greed? I have two responses to that. Number one, that's why the letter that predates the killing from Eric to Andy is so important. Number one, it corroborates that it was happening before. Number two, people forget this, probably before you were born. They went to the grand jury. The DA's office went to the grand jury on the financial motive theory. The grand jury, which will indict anybody on anything, the grand jury rejected that theory. So that is another one of the urban legends.
Here you go, sir.
Thank you.
Here you go.
Thank you.
Here, sir.
Mark, has the DA made any
Here you go,
overtures
sir.
to meet with Lyle
Okay.
and Eric, and has
Get
he
in after.
encouraged him to do so?
Well, I don't think that the protocol in the DA's office is anything but what we're doing today. The protocol today is that you meet with the resentencing unit, you get informed of Marcy's law, and you go from there. I don't know. I will tell you, I've represented, excuse me for 1 second.
Okay, sir. My what was the court?
Okay. So I don't know that they're, other than one-offs, and there's always going to be one-offs. I mean, it's the criminal justice system. It was a polarizing case. Remember, part of what happened was back in the 90s, they became a caricature. They were parodied on Saturday Night Live. I would venture to say that would not happen today. So it's America. There's people with diverse opinions. I just would reiterate, there were two juries in trial number one, back in the 90s, two juries, one for Eric, one for Lyle, 24 jurors who deliberated, half of them voted not guilty on murder. Half.
Mark, you need to talk with Edgardo Diaz, manager de Menudo. You need to recollect for this process. Or another Menudo talked with you.
Well, I've said before that the Menudo Declaration by Roy Rosello is important. But you combine it with, by the way, that is so that you can separate the mental gymnastics. Part of this is to overturn the conviction. The other part is that I think is unassailable, even to your question, to anybody who says, well, they shouldn't get out. The law in California is crystal clear. Resentencing, they qualify under the resentencing laws on every single factor. It's almost, I hate to say that anything's a slam dunk in the criminal law, but under the resentencing laws in California, they clearly qualify. We filed originally for the conviction to be overturned. That's what a writ of habeas corpus is. The other component of this is a resentencing. So it's two tracks. You can pause the habeas while you consider the resentencing. So it's walking and chewing gum at the same time. What? If the habeas would be granted, you would get a new trial. If they are resentenced, the judge under California law has the ability to recall the sentence and sentence them to a wide range of options.
But it's just because they resentencing is what I understand. If he feels, oh, they've been rehabilitated, they're no longer a threat to society, they paid their debt to society, they would qualify under resentencing.
Correct. And in fact, I will also tell you, and we may release it tomorrow, part of the mitigation package that we presented to the DA are letters from correctional officers, high-ranking correctional officers, who attest to the phenomenal rehabilitation. We have a number of correctional officers who have actually said if released, they should be released, and that they would welcome them as neighbors in their neighborhood. I'm going to take two more questions because I want to get over there to meet with the DA as well. What? I won't speak to whether they have a plan. I just think that in order to get through each day, that you've got to just ground yourself. It's a long road from life without for almost 17 years to being hopeful. So that's kind of where. One last question.
What is your response to Ryan Murphy's comments about the brothers specifically, that what happened to them is best as this show's best at the end of 30 years, and the brothers will be out of prison by Christmas?
Somebody, some wag, I don't know who it was, I could give him credit, said about Ryan Murphy that of course he's going to take credit. I didn't say it, so I don't know the man. Anyway, thank you.
Menendez
Thank
plus
you.
minute of